I'm Jason, this is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're going to revisit the locked axle in this thing. The other day, I was working on the tractor when we were doing the how much does it weigh video, and when I jacked it up, I noticed that the wheels are independent of each other, as you can see here. But they do still go the same way. They're still locked, essentially. But what happened inside the transmission is with the welds on that shaft for the pinion gears or whatever broke. And now the gears are rotating enough where they're hitting into the space between the teeth where I welded. I guess I could leave it like that and it's probably good enough, but I'm getting ready to take this thing up the mountain trail for the very first time, and I want to do that Thursday. Today's Tuesday. So before I go up there with this and take that ride, I want to take the transmission back out, open it up, make sure there's no broken gear teeth in there or anything like that, and maybe try to improve the weld quality, make it a little stronger. I can't say I'm surprised that it broke because I know there's a lot of load on that thing, and like the very next day or two after I did that lock, after I welded the gears and stuff in there, I took this thing out front and we were doing tug of war. We were pulling the van. Pulling the van with the trailer and lawnmowers on the trailer. Some of you guys probably saw those videos, but we were really abusing it. So I'm not surprised it broke. And if I do recall that very day, I heard a couple of pops come out of the transmission. That was probably the moment that those welds broke on the shaft there. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing torn apart, get the transmission up on the bench, and we'll catch up with you in a few minutes. All right, we got the transmission unbolted, everything disconnected. It took us about an hour, but we got everything disconnected and got the transmission out. It's not exactly the easiest thing to do, but the transmission is now sitting over here on the welding table. And what we're going to do is just take this thing apart, split the case, and we'll be back in a minute to show you what's going on with the differential. All right, guys, we got the case halves separated again. We're back inside the transmission. And we just popped this cover off. And so just first impressions, everything looks good. There's no obvious wear to any of these gears. The needle bearings all look good. There was no water in the oil because I did drive pretty deep through the creek, so that means that the seals were good. Maybe a minor amount of wear on a couple of these gears where they mesh. And we took out this drain plug right here. And it has a little magnet on it, and there were some fine shavings on the magnet, but that's because sometimes if I'm not completely stopped or whatever and I go to shift it, it has grinded a little bit here and there, and that's probably what I'm seeing, just a little bit of wear on some of these gears. But otherwise it looks pretty clean, it looks pretty healthy in here. So the next thing we're going to do is grab a hold of this differential. We're going to get this opened up and see what kind of damage is going on in there, because we know something's going on in there. We found our culprit. So what happened in there was the shaft actually broke on these gears. The welds were there. The welds were fine. It broke off the shaft. You see it was sitting. It was like that. And it just sheared. So we have a couple options. Well, really only one option. We have another spare transmission laying on the floor over there. I guess we're going to take out this shaft and these spider gears out of that thing, and then obviously replace them into this. And I'm considering not even welding the shaft this time, just letting the gears mesh. But we'll see. There's one more thing I thought was interesting, is that you can see where I welded in between these teeth. You can see there is dents in the weld where the gear teeth tried to mesh, where they're hitting. And you know, I'd love to do a solid axle through this thing and do like a dock locker or, you know, something to that effect. Have a solid axle. The only thing preventing me from having that is that the ends of these shafts are splined. They're not keyed. And I got those cast iron hubs that mesh with this. So maybe I could get some keyed hubs from another model tractor that has a 2300 in it. I don't know. But for right now, we got to put this thing back together. So we're going to go ahead and steal that shaft and gears from the other transmission. So we got this other transmission off the parts tractor. I just got done pressure washing it, and Stefan's taking off the brakes, and we're seeing what we can do to get this thing opened up so we can steal those differential gears and pieces out of there. So right now, Stefan's working on taking off the shifter. It's all 1/4 inch head bolts. And we've got the old brake drum C-clamped to the edge of the table, so that's a nice footing for this to hold up this heavy transmission. Now this tractor supposedly sat for 20 years under a tarp. I went and picked it up from Kentucky, and it was definitely under a tarp, and the guy said it had been there 20 years. So it's not looking too bad inside here. We did notice that when we drained it, it smells a lot like automatic transmission fluid, and there's also a bunch of like goop in this side you can see here. But nothing crazy, it's just like thick, gooey stuff mixed with automatic transmission fluid like sludge. But I don't see any signs of water or any kind of corrosion. It was sealed up nice and tight. All the bearings look good, all the gears look good. So we're gonna go ahead and just snag this right out of here. And we're gonna steal, like I said, this piece that broke, and I'm not gonna even weld this. We're not going to weld it back again. It's just going to happen again. So we're going to take it out of there, put it back in mine. We're not welding anything anymore because these spider gears are already welded. And we're just going to leave it like that because it was working like that for the last couple months. So we got the piece out of the transmission. It's now in my carrier. That's it right there. I'm not going to weld the gear to the shaft. I'm just going to leave it as is. And then you can see I've got these spider gears on the side that are welded from the before when I did this, so it can only move left and right that much before it stops. And we put that other transmission back together right here. We put it back together complete. It's just missing the piece in the differential that I took out of it. So we can still use this transmission if the other ones, the gears mess up or whatever, we can still use this 2300. It's just fine. Everything functions, it shifts into all the gears. It's smooth, clean. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing put back together, get my tractor put back together. We'll see you in a minute. So we're prepping out the transmission. We got the carrier back in. And we are scraping the old RTV off of it in preparation for the new. All right, we got it all RTV'd up. We're going back in. Oh, let me see something. So that. Oh, don't spin that yet. See this? This needle bearing has to sit on top of that.
Right.
That's seated. Everything's seated, right? All right, so we were able to get the other half of the transmission back on, and it's seated. The thing with these is that as you're trying to put it down, there's a casting with a needle bearing on this side of the casing that has to go underneath a gear and then sit down on top of a shaft. And then when you're trying to put it down also, you got to spin the input shaft a little bit so it'll mesh with the gear. And then the last thing is these shift forks. They don't like to sit straight up and down in their slots, so that when you're trying to seat this thing, there's two holes on this side of the casing for them to sit in, but they're like leaning back. So I found out, I just took a little pair of needle nose pliers and just grabbed on the shift fork and just pulled it gently towards me, towards the opening of the case here, where the shifter arm goes in, and I was able to pull it back, and then it just went down all at once. So right now what I'm doing is just setting up the RTV. You can see it's coming out. I used gray. It's what I had. And I'm just going to snug down these bolts. Just finger tight, I guess, but I can't do them anymore. I got to just use a ratchet or something to get them down to where they're touching. So one point of interest and something that's been on my mind since I've been driving this thing is, you know, we completely fabricated that clutch system. And I built these belt guides for it, and you can definitely see a track in the paint. I don't know if you'll ever see it on the camera, but you can definitely see where the belt rubs on the top and the bottom. So I guess it flops around in there sometimes when it's under a load. I don't know. But the belt itself has not shown any signs of distress or wear. If you look under here, that belt guide runs from the front all the way to the back, and there's no pulleys in between. It's just a straight shot. And right now the belt's slack, the clutch is out. But the belt pretty much is in perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it. All right, this is a shot of underneath the mower with the belt guide back on. There's the crank pulley. That blue belt to the left goes to the alternator I put in the other day. But you can see where the belt guide on the top comes around the pulley, and then there's a little space, and then the other one starts. And it runs from the front all the way to the back in a straight shot. It's over 3 feet. I'm not sure exactly how long it is, but I don't think it matters too much. Alright, so that was a lot of work, but I'm really glad I took the transmission apart and I found the issue. Now I thought that the welds were just broken and it was just that shaft was still intact, and I was surprised to see that it had sheared like that. But like I said, I'm glad I did it. So moving forward, I think it's good enough how it is for now. I do want to run a straight axle on this thing. Now, like you saw earlier in the video, the only problem I've got is I can't just get a piece of 1-inch keyed shaft unless I try to find some different hubs that went to a keyed shaft tractor. My second option, besides doing that, is to take a piece of 1-inch chrome steel axle shaft that's just blank, and then take it to the local machine shop and have them cut the splines, cut it to length, and cut the splines on each side for these cast iron hubs, and then put a little keyway in the middle. I don't think that's too far of a stretch. I'm not sure how much that would cost, but it would be worth it to me. So that's the other option I've got. Otherwise, it's going to go how it is for now, and I'm just going to take it easy. I'm not going to be out in the driveway pulling 6,000-pound trucks and other tractors and tug of wars and things. So guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Thank you for anybody who comments. New people that see this channel, please like and subscribe. Thanks to those of you who are watching these videos to the end and commenting and giving me advice. That's kind of why I'm really doing this, is try to learn from you guys, and hopefully I can, you guys can learn something from me, maybe. But anyways, once again, my name's Jason. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and I'll see you on the next one.